Then go down to the bottom. AIM rejected these arguments with the following rationale, and the one, of course, that's of interest to us is the third one. AIM do not want to tie any concessions from the city to this deal because of the potential unfavorable optics in their view. They are also uncomfortable with the involvement of Peter McCallion as an apparent principal of WCD. You see that?
Yes, I see it.
Right. Now, I appreciate you didn't know this at the time, but you see that based on this report, one of the reasons that the deal, in fact, was terminated, it would appear, is because of your involvement.
It appears based on that statement.
Right. And this is the first that you have known of that, I take it?
Yes.
Is that been marked?
That, I think, is in, but can we mark that?
Exhibit 275.
275? Thank you. And then just to pull out Exhibit 142. This is a report, handwritten notes from Mr. Charles. The bottom on the left, December 16th, follow-up pre-response to letter. Mayor assured everyone that Peter McCallion was off the file and has no further involvement in the project.
What's the date of that?
That is December the 16th, Commissioner. And there's more evidence to come in this, obviously, but if your mother said that to somebody, she did so without consultation with you.
Yes.
And in fact, she was incorrect. If she said that, she was incorrect.
If she said that was incorrect.
And then up on the right-hand side, Tony took Murray Cook out of the equation. Mayor brought Tony in a deal when Mayor thought Murray Cook wouldn't be able to deliver. Looking at that, was your mother involved in Tony DeChico joining the project?
No. Not at all.
Were you aware of your mother's view about whether Murray Cook would or wouldn't be able to deliver?
I'm not aware of that.
Right. And so we'll have more evidence about this, but insofar as your mother's involvement in this, these are new ideas for you. You haven't...
Yes, I was not aware.
Now, the deal terminated, as we've heard, on January the 9th of 2009. There was then a period where effectively nothing was happening between the two sides in this terminated deal, but then there was litigation.
Correct.
Right. And you have testified this morning about encountering Mr. O'Brien at some golf dinner.
Correct.
And just to be clear about this, did Mr. O'Brien come to your mother and ask whether he could be of assistance, or was it the other way around? Did your mother go to Mr. O'Brien?
Well, he came to me.
He came to you. And he offered to assist in getting this resolved?
Yes, he did.
And he came to you in your capacity as being associated with WCD?
Yes.
Now, if we look at these mechanics, let me put it that way, of this discussion that Mr. O'Brien's going to have. Mr. O'Brien had been the city manager?
Yes.
And in that capacity, he'd been an advisor to your mother?
I would say yes.
Well, to the city.
Even afterwards.
Right, and afterwards. I was going to come to that. He has remained a trusted advisor.
Yes.
In a way that other city managers are not, I take it. Former city
Well, some of them have moved away, so I can't answer that.
Right. But
distance-wise alone, he's close.
Close. And he sometimes does, he has dinner with her from time to time?
I believe so, yes.
He does errands for her, if I can put it that, from time to time?
I don't know about that.
He is a trustee of the family trust that your family has?
Correct.
Right. And with our newfound knowledge of trusts here, you're a beneficiary of the trust.
I believe I am.
Right.
May not be after this.
Well, fair enough, but as matters stand, you're a beneficiary.
Correct.
And so here is your mother's advisor, and in this special capacity, this formal capacity at least, being the trustee, he's setting off to try and resolve things with Mr. DeChico.
Correct.
But he's also a director of one of the owner's entities.
Yes.
And you sit in on these negotiations on the side of WCD.
I'm sitting there putting them together.
Right.
Because the only way it's going to be resolved is Tony and Homer's
So
come
you-
to a settlement.
All right, but I mean, why are you there? Have you assumed the peacekeeper role here, or?
Yes, kind of. Because Tony can be argumentative.
And just so we have it from you, what was your understanding of what Mr. O'Brien was doing in these meetings?
He was trying to come to an agreement, a satisfactory agreement between the two sides, a settlement agreement.
Now, let's pull up Exhibit 215. These are notes taken by the city solicitor. This is September 3rd of 2009. Mary Ellen Bench, we understand she'll give evidence consistent with these notes. Hazel has called him and suggested he talk to me. That's Mr. O'Brien. Going down a couple of bullets. Met with DeChico and Peter McCallion at her request. So Mr. O'Brien saying that he met with Mr. DeChico, but also you at the mayor's request.
I didn't know it was at her request. He offered.
All right. Has read affidavits. Sorry, discussed with Michael Latimer. Has read affidavits by DeChico and Peter McCallion. Concerned with conflict.
So that's after, oh, that's September 3rd, yeah.
Right. At this point, did your mother say anything to you about her concern about conflict in relation to this issue?
No.
And then going down to September 5th, he had a long chat with Hazel this morning. That's Mr. O'Brien. She's not that excited about the Sheridan deal. And then carrying on, concerned that if the city goes ahead with deal with Sheridan, could put the city in a precarious position. You see that? He's quoting.
Which
I guess
point
he's
is
quoting your
that?
mother.
Oh, that one.
Right. Did you have an understanding from Mr. DeChico that he had an improved bargaining position, given that the Sheridan deal was now coming up to a close?
I wasn't aware of the Sheridan deal.
At all, even by this point?
No.
Okay. Recommends bringing Hazel up to date before it goes to council. And then the next bullet, Hazel has agreed to declare a conflict. Next bullet, knows she has talked to Peter and DeChico. Again, so this is a couple of days later. Did you have any discussion about your mother's concerns about being in a position of conflict in that time period, September 5th?
I was not aware of that, no.
Right? And then it carries on. Just to cover this off, do I take it that you were not speaking with your mother about this conflict of interest on her part in September of 2009?
No.
Commissioner, I'm going to move to another area. Could we perhaps break?
Sure. Take 15 minutes.
Order all right?
Yeah.
Minutes. Choir is reconvened. Please be seated.
Just a few remaining points, sir. in relation to the affidavit, I'm sure that you're sick of telling the story about the affidavits, but there's the first one, the August 24th one, and Ms. Rothstein's reviewed the circumstances of that being
Correct.
sworn. And then I guess we will see the evidence from Mr. Bisceglia or the people in his office about the circumstances surrounding why that firm didn't commission a further affidavit. But in any event, you went to Mr. Schwartz, to his office?
Correct.
And Mr. Schwartz has from time to time acted as your mother's personal solicitor, I take it?
Yes, for many years.
For many years. And in fact, we're talking about the family trust and so on. He's the one who did those arrangements.
Yes.
So you went back taking a version which you understood, not you understood, which contained the expression of your desire to correct the record.
Correct.
And then after you swore that one, you vetted that one with your mother, I gather?
I believe I sent a copy to Mary Ellen Bench.
All right. And in any event, it was communicated to you, was it by your mother that it was insufficiently clear?
Probably, yes. I don't 100% remember that, but
Now, with respect to the first affidavit, the August 24th one, I want to be clear about this. Did you discuss the affidavit with your mother over the telephone before it was sworn?
all I said was there was a lot of changes that I had to make from the first affidavit that Emilio gave me.
All right, so...
I didn't discuss what they were.
All right, so the first affidavit, just so we have this, is the August 24th affidavit, Exhibit 212.
Whatever the number is, yeah.
Well, let's just look at it to make sure. I think this is an important point. Let's go down to the first paragraph, or the second paragraph, I guess.
Yes, that's the one.
I'm one of the principals. So you did discuss this affidavit, Exhibit 212, with your mother?
Over the phone saying before this,
Before it was sworn?
before signing.
Before signing it?
Before signing, I said
Right.
there's a lot of changes from the draft that Emilio sent me,
Right.
and I corrected them.
Well, and I take it the litigation that was going on was a matter of interest to her because the Sheridan deal was pending.
Well, to her, it would have been interesting, yeah. I didn't know about the Sheridan deal, though.
All right. Did you look at any of the other affidavits in the proceeding?
I saw none.
And you discussed, to some extent, the substance of this affidavit with your mother?
No, just the fact that I had to make a lot of changes,
All right.
not what they were.
I have to ask you, sir, you say that you knew nothing about the Sheridan transaction at any point?
Well, it was in the newspaper much after this.
But hadn't it been announced with a lot of fanfare in the spring of 2009?
Yes, I remember that, but it wasn't specific to a site.
Wasn't specific to a site.
Or if it was, I thought it was on a site where the theaters were.
So you thought that it was going on a different portion of the Square One lands?
Correct. Not where we were.
And at some point, did you figure out that it was, in fact, where you were?
After the fact.
Long after this?
Yes, after this.
So long after August the 24th?
Long after.
All right. And so you did a second affidavit, then there was a third affidavit. Did Ms. Bench ask you for the third affidavit?
I believe I sent it. I don't believe she asked for it specifically.
All right. And what was it that prompted you to do the third affidavit?
That it wasn't completely clear.
Right. And having sworn that affidavit, what did you do with it? And you had version 1, version 2, version 3. You got version
Right.
3 sworn. What do you do with it at that point?
I sent it to Emilio's office after it was commissioned. And I believe I sent a copy to Mary Ellen Bench.
Right. Now, is it possible that you discussed it with Mr. Couprie? The first affidavit or the second or the third?